If you've ever read A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, you may recollect a Christmas punch called Smoking Bishop. And seeing as Christmas is just around the corner, I've decided to make myself a big bowl of Victorian Smoking Bishop. This time on Drinking History. So at the end of A Christmas Carol, after Scrooge has had his change of heart, he takes his poor clerk, Bob Cratchit, aside and says, "A merrier Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, than I have given you for many a year. I'll raise your salary and endeavor to assist your struggling family, and we will discuss your affairs this very afternoon over a Christmas bowl of smoking bishop, Bob." And that smoking bishop is just one of many types of hot punch or mulled wine or wassail, whatever you want to call it. Mostly I'm going to be working from a recipe written in 1836, just 7 years before Dickens published A Christmas Carol. And I chose it, one, because it's one of the earliest, if not the earliest recipe, and because I love the name of both the book and the pseudonym for the author. It's called Apician Anecdotes, or Tales of the Table, Kitchen, and Larder, by Dick Hummelbergius Secundus. And yes, that word Apician comes from our old friend from ancient Rome, Apicius. Now the recipe is rather long, so I'm going to read a condensed version, though I'll put the entire thing in the description. Make incisions into the rind of a lemon, stick cloves in, and roast the said lemon by the fire. Put small quantities of cinnamon, mace, cloves, and allspice, and a race of ginger into a saucepan with a half pint of water. Let it boil until it be reduced 1/2. Boil 1 bottle of port wine, burn a portion of the spirit out of it by applying a lighted taper to the saucepan which contains it. Put the roasted lemons and spice into the wine. Stir it up well and let it stand near the fire 10 minutes. Put in the sugar with the juice of half a lemon and serve it with the lemon and spice floating in it. And like I said, there are many recipes for smoking bishop, one of the most famous and oft-quoted by Eliza Acton. It was published just a few years after this one, and it is taken word for word from this recipe, except that she does add nutmeg at the end, making it completely her own recipe, I guess. She also says, "Bishop is frequently made with a Seville orange stuck with cloves and slowly roasted, and its flavor to many tastes is infinitely finer than that of the lemon." But finding Seville oranges today, at least where I live, is very, very difficult, so you can feel free to use pretty much any citrus you want, either oranges or lemons, or even a little bit of grapefruit to add that bitterness. It's up to you. Personally, I'm going to use 2 Meyer lemons, which are fantastic, and 1 orange. Then 24 cloves, 2 sticks of cinnamon, a 1/4 teaspoon ground mace, an 1/8 teaspoon ground cloves, a 1/4 teaspoon ground allspice, and an inch of ginger peeled and sliced. Then 1 1/4 cup or 300 milliliters of water, a 1/2 cup or 65 grams powdered sugar. You can use regular granulated sugar, but it just doesn't mix in as well. The juice of half a lemon, and 1 750 milliliter bottle of ruby port. I'm using a bottle of Sandeman Fine Ruby Port that I got from Curiata. Now I've mentioned them before. They are a great way to find some of the less common spirits and liquors and have them shipped from online. They come straight to your door. They're fantastic. I'll put a link in the description where you can get this bottle as well as several of my favorite holiday spirits. But you can feel free to use any ruby port. Now, I wouldn't use a tawny port, 1, because ruby port is more historically accurate for this recipe, and 2, because tawny ports tend to be a little finer, a little more expensive, and you don't want to go mulling a very expensive bottle of port. Just go with something nice, but less expensive, like this one. So first, take your citrus and cut 8 small incisions into each, then insert a clove into each cut. Set these on a lined baking sheet and put them in an oven at 300 degrees Fahrenheit or 150 Celsius for about 1 hour and 20 to 1 hour and 30 minutes. You'll know when they're done because they'll be very soft to the touch. Once they're roasted, add the water to a small saucepan and then stir in all of the spices, and then set it on the stove and bring to a light boil. Just like a simmer, you want it to reduce by about half, which takes 15 to 20 minutes. While it reduces, pour the port into another larger pot and set it over a medium flame until it just simmers. Now the recipe says to boil it, but most of the other recipes say to not boil it, and I would say just get a light simmer. That's really what you want. It also says that you can burn away some of the spirit. I don't know why they would do that, but that you can burn away some of the spirit with a taper, a candle, I used a regular, like a click flame, whatever that is called. But if you're gonna do that, be very, very careful because it's very flammable and I nearly burned our house down. A lighter, it's called a lighter. How could I not remember that? Now once it starts to simmer, add in the water with the spices and the roasted citrus and let it simmer for another 10 minutes. Then add in the lemon juice and the sugar and whisk until dissolved, and then take it off the heat. Now you can drink it right now, but you can also let it sit covered overnight for the flavors to really develop and then reheat it the next day, which is what I'm going to do. And while the wine is mulling, I pose you 2 questions. What is Bishop, and why is it smoking? So before I answer those 2 questions, let me answer another, and that is, why am I at my table for drinking history instead of behind the bar? A few people asked last week, and the reason that I'm giving is because I'm just going to do mixed drinks at the bar. The real reason is because it's covered in Christmas Lego sets, and I didn't have anywhere else to put them. So I'm at the table. Now the first mention of Bishop that I could find that wasn't either an ecclesiastical post or a pin-headed chess piece came from Samuel Johnson's dictionary in 1755. Bishop, a cant word for a mixture of wine, oranges, and sugar. Sounds about right. And these oranges would have been, as I mentioned, Seville oranges, which were very popular in England at the time. Jonathan Swift, the author of Gulliver's Travels and A Modest Proposal, agreed with the choice of fruit when he wrote, "Fine orange, well roasted, with sugar and wine in a cup. They'll make a sweet bishop when gentle folks sup." But by the time most of the actual recipes start coming around, the orange has all but left and been replaced with lemons. And I don't exactly know why that is, unless maybe Seville oranges had become rarer in England or they just used them to make marmalade. Not quite sure. What I do know is that among the Oxford nightcaps, Bishop appears to be one of the oldest winter beverages on record, and to this very day is preferred to every other, not only by the youthful votary of Bacchus at his evening revelry, but also by the grave Dawn by way of a nightcap. That was Dick Humblebergius Secundus, and he goes on to say that the reason that it's called Bishop is because in ancient times when bishops and other clerics would visit Oxford, they would give them this mulled cider, mulled wine. And that is not true by any stretch of the imagination, probably because there were no oranges in England in ancient times. I'm not sure what ancient meant, but they were pretty new in the 17th and 18th century. No, the drink probably actually gets its name from its color, and there's actually an entire group of mulled wines with citrus and spices called ecclesiastics. And they're all named so because their color is reminiscent of the garb worn by different members of the clergy. A bowl of Pope is made with Burgundy, Cardinal, Champagne, Archbishop, Claret, Church Warden, ginger wine and raisins, and Chorister, white wine. And that's why Smoking Bishop is made with ruby port, because it makes a purple drink, just like the purple robes of bishops at the time. As to the question of why it's smoking, well, just look at it. The steam looks kind of like smoke. And the English just loved their hot drinks at this time. Wine could be heated with a red-hot poker out of the fire, and if I didn't have a gas fireplace, that's what I was going to do, maybe next year. It could also be heated with an ale warmer over the fire, or as I'm doing, in a pot on the stove. So if you have waited for your bishop to mull overnight, then reheat it on the stove until it's smoking. And here we are, a big bowl of Smoking Bishop. It's interesting, you can see the oils from the citrus kind of floating on top. Curious how that's going to affect the taste. Now, some of the old recipes say you can add rum or brandy at this point, but I'm going to stick with just the port for the moment. Let's give it a shot. Oh, it smells so good, so Christmassy. It's similar to Glühwein or Glögg or any of those wonderful mulled wines around Europe at this time of year, but the citrus really adds something. It's not particularly orangey or lemony, but it adds that, like, the zest, like you get from a lemon zest or something. It just adds that extra zing that really kind of elevates it elevates it above the common mulled wine. So I definitely suggest that you make this or the Smoking Pope or the Smoking Archbishop, whichever wine you like, mull it up with some spices and citrus and enjoy on a nice winter evening or for Christmas Eve or whatever else you want. And I will see you next time on Drinking History.